it's from the hard bucket, and this question it's a dynamic programming question, and we are given with just two values. It's two integers. It's n and k, and we have to find the number of different arrays such that there are exactly k inverse pairs. So what does inverse pair here means is, like, for ith and jth element in the array, and if I is less than j, then a of I should be greater than a of j. So this does mean about the inverse pair, and we have to return the modulo of 10 power 9 plus 7. That's it. Any questions?
How the array 1, 3, 2 is an inverse pair? Because 1 is less than 3.
2 and 3 are inverse.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just need a single inverse pair that has
We need k inverse pairs. So in that case, k is only 1. So there's only
okay,
one.
okay. I got it.
I haven't solved this question. I didn't got any time for this, but
I tried to solve it, but so I'll tell you my journey of this problem. I initially solved it, tried using it in a different way, but that was not the right approach of doing it. So what I did was, let's take an example of 3. And what I did, let me share my screen actually.
Yeah, let me pause mine. Yeah.
Are you able to see the whiteboard?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I did was, suppose there's a 3 elements, 1, 2, and 3. And what I did was, every time I tried to create this barrier, and in each side I try to, suppose I have a k equal to just it. And on the left hand side, I try to set, suppose for the one element, I'll try to find for k equal to 0, k equal to 1, and k equal to 2. And the remaining is what I'll try to find on the other side. So for k equal to 1 here, I have to find 2 pairs here. I'll have to find 1 pair here. I'll have to find 0 pair here. So the idea which, the intuition for this came from when I tried to, build up some problems, like let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. And, one of the approach which I say for 2 is just take the last element and see if it can be, put into a place of like n minus 2. And for this, so this will give me 2 outputs, like 3, 1, 2, 4. The other one will be 1, 4, 2, 3. But then what I did was just have a barrier around these numbers. So like on the one side, there will be nothing, and then have this barrier. So if you see this part will become n comma k of sorts. In this case, it will be 2 comma 1, and here it will also be 2 comma 1. And 2 comma 1, suppose for n equal to 2, there's only one way you can create a combination of inverse, which is 2, 1. And it doesn't matter which numbers are there. If you have n numbers and k, you'll always have the same number, whether it's 1, 2, 1, 4, or anything in the sorts. So from this, what I got was something like 2, 1, comma 4, 3. This is why I got stuck in my approach. Why? Because there are other formations also which can add to this. I'll give you an example where it's 1, comma, 3, comma, something like this. I don't remember the exact thing. Yeah, this is the one. So my approach did not handle these kind of scenarios where the numbers were crossing across the borders, and there were just more than one movement to get the inverse pairs. That's where I decided, can I clear the screen?
Yes.
So that's why I, started thinking about how to create the permutations, and then I came around this. 1, 2, if I have two numbers, and normally how do we create a permutation? Just try to place the next element at every position. Like in this case, it will be 3, 1, 2, 1, 3, and 2, and 1, 2, and 3. Out of these, suppose I have k equal to 1. So out of these, if you can see, this is the only one valid position which is there, which can, solve the problem. Right? So here, what we have to find is, like, if I'm putting it here, the next number which we are going to insert is always going to be greater than the last or numbers. So if I have 1 and 2 or 2 and 1, the next number is always going to be 3, right? So if I put it as the last, it is not going to change the inverse anyway, because this is largest and it will be larger than any other number which is in the sequence, right? So if we have k equal to 1, we just have to see what was the number of formations that were created by the earlier characters and just append 3 to the end of that. Right? And what next we can see is 1, 2, and then try to insert it here. Now, when we are inserting this new number here, this is larger than all the numbers which are in the system or all in the already created permutations, and this will definitely be greater than this. So inverse, in inverse pairs, or sorry, the pair which we are discussing about, it also means number of characters. It is displaced from its original position, right? So original position of 3 in this case is here, but when we displace it by 1, we'll definitely have 1k already calculated, which will add to this, right? Are you with me till now? Or am I going too fast? Am I going too fast? Should I go back a few steps?
Yeah, if you could just repeat, I just lost the track.
Till what point did you follow me?
Just go, or like repeat once again. Be a bit fast. I'll just get back.
Just let me know where I should stop, and then I can repeat from there.
Okay.
So let's see, these are the already created pair, and suppose here is 2 and k is equal to 1, right?
Okay.
And what we have to find is n equal to 3 and k equal to 1.
Okay.
So I know I have to add the third element, which is 3, which is definitely going to be greater than already created numbers, because I'm going to add 3, right? So if I add 3 here or add 3 here, it's not going to change anything in the inverse pairs, because 3 is always going to be largest and it is at the last position.
Yeah.
Right? So if we consider this, we have 1 and 2, right? These positions, and we can insert 3 at here, here, or here.
Yeah.
To create it at 3 to n3, right? Now for this position, if I have to insert it here and to get a k equal to 1, the already existing pair should already have 1, okay? So that the final string will again have the k equal to 1 as a final, right?
Okay.
Right. So number of pairs in that format will be whatever is already created.
Yeah.
Right. N minus 1 comma k, which in this case is 2 comma 1.
In any case, when it's k equal to 1, you'll just be having a single permutation that will give you that answer, right?
Okay, let me take it a different, because this is, for k equal to 1, it's easier to create out. That's why I was taking the 1. But we can take a 2. I can take a 4 example. But let me just, show you my understanding of this, and then probably we can look at for the 4.
Okay.
Now, if we go to the next position where we can insert it, which is this one, right? 3 will come here. So we'll definitely have 1 k equal to 1 already calculated, right? Because 2 is less than 3, right? So we have 1 inverse pair already existing.
Yeah.
So we need a combination in the existing system or old system where k is equal to 0, because we need in the final solution 1, and we have got that 1 using the position of 3. So the existing combination, from the earlier set should have k equal to 0 in this case, it is 1, 2, right?
Yeah.
So we can take 1, 3, 2,
Yeah, got it.
right? And then next, third position is this one. So we can have 3, 1, 2. But now if I add k equal to, here k will become 3, sorry, k will become already 2, which is greater than 3. So I can just ignore this one, right? Because this combination will not give me the result that I need of k equal to 1.
Yeah, got it.
All right? So that's how I did. I iteratively or recursively called. So whenever I had to get n comma k, I looped it over the each element n minus 1 to suppose I, and I ranges from 0 to I range from 0 to k. But whenever I get a k, which is this I, which is taking the integer to less than 0, I just ignore that.
Yeah, got
So
it.
essentially, if you have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, these many numbers, and you still have k equal to 2, right?
Yeah.
So you can put it here, you can put it here, you can put it anywhere, but your k should not go more than 2. So that's why you
Yeah,
have to
got
put
it,
a
got
limit.
it, got
You have to try every position, but your k should not go more than 2.
Yeah, I guess this is the brute force approach, right?
I am not sure. I thought the one which I did earlier was kind of brute force. This,
Because what I think is there will, if it's not brute force, but there could be a DP table that could be formed.
yes, this will follow memorization, recursive memorization. So definitely DP will be there, but I have not, done the DP thing. So I've tried it using the recursion.
Okay, I just had a doubt. Like the second question that I told,
Sorry.
from the second question that I told, we were using recursion, right? While using recursion, do we count the space complexity of the recursion stack as the space complexity?
Yes, ideally we should, because recursion adds to some memory.
Yeah, but it's the recursion memory, right? It's not the external space complexity that we talk about.
I think the idea behind considering that as a external space is because a lot of problems which are solved recursively, they may definitely be solved using some external space. So I am sure there must be some parallel iterative approach for all the recursive solutions. That's why
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
considered.
Because actually there was a doubt in the chat section that in the second approach that I told using recursion, I said that we'll be using space complexity of 1, right? So someone said that, I guess it's Shubhi. She said that, it's Shubhi. She said that the space complexity should be O of n. Because for me, it's a debatable topic. We're not calculating the program space complexity. We calculate the external space that we use.
But that is a part of program. If you consider the memory footprint of the program, it will definitely consider the because every
Yeah,
program when it
while
runs will
doing
consider.
software programming, we'll consider, but in competitive coding, we generally do not consider, like in lead code or so. I'll just try it. So I'll let you know if this approach works. So it will definitely let me know on lead code that how much space that I use, and then we'll cross check and like.
In the competitive program, I don't think it will matter. But if you are going for interviews and all, probably they will definitely ask whether it's kind of the memory store footprint or not. But yeah, in that case, yes, it will be adding to the memory footprint of the program.
Okay.
I mean,
Vivek,
so if
you can correct.
we have to,
Sorry.
when we count time and space complexity, right? The question is whether we should include the stack for the space complexity or not, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I think my answer would be yes. And I'm not sure if you can get any other answer. Okay. Because so anything that change with the input, then I would include that. For example,
Okay.
my input is 10 and then it goes to 20. Does whatever I was using, does it change proportionally? I would include that. Otherwise, everything else I would just say that it is constant, and I want to include that in analysis.
Okay, thanks. I actually didn't know this. Thanks, Shubhi. Thanks, everyone, for this.
We in screen. I stopped seeing the screen. So the last one we discussed that was, are we trying to code it or not? It looks like I lost the
I didn't code the last question. I wasn't able to think of a logic actually.
Yeah, same here from my side.
I have coded it, but I'm not sure if that's the time complexity is correct or not. It's passing the lead code problem, the test cases, but I'm sure there may be a better solution or better performant code on this. Let me share my screen. Okay. Are you able to see the screen?
No.
Should be able to see now.
Yes.
So what I did was I just created an n cross k matrix, and I know so for every number, if there's no inverse character that is required, that is just one combination that can be created. And for one k equal to 1, it will always be n minus 1. Just swapping the immediate two numbers, and that will get you one inverse pair. And for 2, 1 and 2, 2, I hard coded it because it's not going to be changing. For 2 and 1, it's not going to change. And what I did was kind of memorization and just recursively calling the same function for, as we discussed in the solution. Like if the solution exists, then just take the value. It's not then calculated based on whatever has been calculated plus the previous level value. And a couple of cases where I was failing was because I forgot to add the mod. The value can get pretty large for even 18 and 34 numbers. Is this code understood? Or? Hey, am I audible, guys?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry. I thought I lost the voice.
Go ahead, Ashish. Or Tanmay, who's
This is Puneet.
I'm actually thinking if there could be a DP table made with N and K as like parameters, a 2D DP table. Love. I'm just kind of building it, but it's following a pattern of just summation, a simple summation pattern.
I think it will be similar to like dp of n minus 1.
Plus,
And then
yeah, the cell exactly above it and the cell above and leftwards, like n minus 1 and k minus 1 plus dp n minus 1 k. Yeah.
dpn minus 1 k.
K and dpn minus 1 k minus 1. I don't know if it will work. Like I'm just figuring it out. What's gonna be the condition?
How did you reach that conclusion? I'm not sure. How did you come to that?
I'm just
Sure, there
coding it
must be.
right now.
Okay.
Well, what I generally do is I just take out some examples. I draw. I make the table up to 4, well, for N4 and K4, and then I try it for 5 finally. And if I get the answer, then I code it. Basically, that's how I approach DP. Basically,
Biggest challenge that I face with DP is to understand whether the problem is a DP or not. A lot of times those
uh,
kind of overlap.
basically, what I think is if it's a recursive problem, there ought to be a DP solution method in most of the cases.
And mostly the DP problems has smaller constraints as well. So it's kind of we can judge from the constraints
Oh, you're
sometimes.
talking about these constraints.
Yeah.
No, I usually do not initially look at these numbers. Just try to get to some solution without looking at those. And maybe I should start looking at these notes also.
Yeah. I'm not that good at DP. Anyone who has done it from DP using DP?
Build a solution if you want.
I had a doubt for in case the array 3 to 1 will have how many inverse pairs? Will it be 3 or will it be like a 1 or
Sorry.
2? The array 3 to 1. How many inverse pairs
Yeah,
will be
so
there?
that was the thing I was talking about. It failed for me. It will have 3 uh, inverse pairs.
3 inverse pairs, right? So that's yeah.
My initial approach where I was trying to break the array into 2 different parts and then trying to find out what would be the left hand side and right hand side, it failed on these kind of cases where the entire array was reversed. Or in fact, so if you had this, then 4, 5, I could not find it.
I don't know. I'll have to figure out this thing, the DP solution.
I'm not sure this is the right recurrence question, but yeah. We can do this for equal to 1 to whatever is the value given. Inside that can be for but I think this would be the relation, right?
Hello?
Yeah. Hello. Somebody was trying to say something.
We're near to the solution, I guess, but that's not the solution.
And in fact, we can have these kind of things. We just need we don't need NK, we can just keep old. Instead of space complexity of nk, we can reduce it down to k, because every time we are just using the n-1 for creation of the next level.
Yeah. 2 TDP can be converted into 1 TDP. It's written in the discuss thing, you know.
Sorry?
Whenever I'm unable to solve any problem, I just go and see the discuss platform. Yeah.
That.
And just like what I do is I sort it by most votes and I read the most popular one. That's basically the best answer.
I'm going to share the screen again. Let me share the screen. Just opened it.
This one, right? But the TP used here is like something.
Same thing, but they have come to some kind of last stopping step is, I don't know, k minus n plus 1. Oh, so what they have done is just taken the current element, the next element, and then subtracted both of them. So which will remove a lot of common points that they have in between. And okay, so that reduces down to this much. Yeah, again, it is still the 1D array that we can use. Does anyone know what's the intuition or what kind of problems do you feel come down to these kind of equations? I don't know if you guys have any kind of intuition that guides you in this direction. Like let's subtract the two values and then see. It doesn't click me very intuitively that just try to reduce this equation into a single one or a single step equation.
Yeah, this is very intuitive. Maybe if we have to go from, say, basically k to k minus 1 to up to certain point, right? Anything basically from k to k minus n plus 1, right? And k change, and then we are doing same thing again. It's like in one of this string matching solution, right? We get the running we get the hash, running hash. So you
Right.
you remove from one from the beginning. And
The rolling hash you are talking about.
Rolling hash, yes. So in this case, basically, kind of basically we are not skipping anything from k to k minus n plus 1, right? It's maybe a little bit different than probably rod cutting, where you might skip something, you might count something based on the size of the rod, available size of the rod. There we can't devise this, but in this case, basically we have to go through from k to k to k minus 1, k minus 2, till k minus n plus 1.
Right. So this equation is clear. This one was, you could actually create it from a logic also that we discussed during the screen share.
Now I'm saying that in this case we are not skipping anything, right? Basically, we are looking back up to certain distance.
Right. So my question was exactly, so what kind of data point in the question, or what kind of equation gives you a hint that that can be done, or that's
Okay.
the
Yeah. So
that's the way that.
so I'm saying that once you have the first equation, then when you write next equation, you know that you are changing k. So k become k plus 1. So whole equation become k plus 1 k plus 1. I mean 1 1 1. It's basically the whole window shift to next window, next one element, right?
Right.
Window becomes. I mean the window is same. There's nothing in between change. You are not skipping anything. You are just removing one from the beginning, adding one at the end.
And so if that's the logic, then probably if we increase n also, that will work, right? That will give the, let's assume if we are considering a horizontal window of k n, and instead of horizontal we look at the vertical window where the n is changing, like dp of n.
Yeah, can we write this equation then with the n and not k changing?
Yeah, that's what I was just.
Okay.
If that's the case, then probably that makes sense. But let me try. dp of n plus 1 and the dp of go. And let me write the original equation also. I am not sure if this is there.
So, see, yeah, it depends on the back in when you change the k, but not on the end, right?
Right. So in this case, probably we'll have to take k as the first dimension and as the second dimension. That would make more sense. So if we take dp of k comma n instead of dp of n comma, then it will become similar equation to this.
Yeah, yeah. So when I'm saying that, so once you get this equation, then probably we should always try and see if we can, whatever he tried to do, right? Basically, let's get nk and nk plus 1 and see the difference, and we can do the commonality so that, we can reduce it to this simple equation rather than going through everything. As long as k is pretty consistent, k minus 1, k minus 2 up to k minus n minus 1. I mean, there's nothing we are skipping in between for whatever reason. And it is always kind of, we are shifting the window, adding, removing one and adding one at the end, kind of.
Any question on this, guys? Any other approach? Any other suggestions or your idea of looking at problems?
Shubi said that there was an editorial that gives. Shubi, do you have a link that you can post so we can directly go there?
Sorry for what?
It's under the solution thing. Like open the solution. Here's the editorial. When you'll scroll down, you'll get the editorial. If I'm not wrong, that's what she said. she said that approach 2 is like fairly simple and it's gonna help
Yeah,
us.
approach 2 will help us to get to this integration.
Yeah, that's what she said. I don't know.
And approach 2 is the one which I have done. Yeah, this is my actually what I have done exactly. I've taken some extra initialization which are not done here. Dynamic program. There are like 4 or 5 approaches for this. Or 5. Or 6, 7. I think this is the question where you can find all the dynamic programming approaches.
Okay, guys, this is Thomas. I need to log off, but you guys can continue as long as you want to discuss, okay, on the call. And is that okay? Or you guys also want to stop?
If you guys have anything else to discuss, we can continue. If not, probably we can also talk.
Yeah, Bhavesh, I'll be around, so you can feel free to drop off. I'll close the recording and then we'll terminate the meeting. So after you guys are done. So please go ahead with the discussions.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bhavesh.
Thanks, Bhavesh. Have you guys seen these approaches? Anyone? Tanmay, Ashish?
No. I'm not that good at dynamic programming.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, all the problems seem to be on dynamic programming, and I think the only one using recursion was this one. And I think the time complexity for this is n squared k. Let's what we can do is just take one of the problems and then try to find out. I think this one we are already done. Let's take any one optimized one and let's see if we can get some intuitions out of it. Is that okay? Or you guys want to drop off?
I'll be like dropping off because I have to like go to somewhere. So thanks a lot for the meeting.
Okay. Ashish, you want to stop now or?
Yeah,
I know.
just I have to do something.
Okay. Yeah, then you can stop for today.
Okay. Thanks for